I want to start this video out by saying thank you to Ubisoft for providing me with a code for review. Avatar Frontiers of Pandora released 2 years ago back in 2023 to mostly mixed to okay reviews, with many players noting the impressive world and its visuals while criticizing the open world design and its story. Since then, 2 main story DLCs have been released that take you to brand new areas of Pandora, alongside some smaller updates along the way. But the biggest surprise had to be when Ubisoft announced there would in fact be a brand new story expansion releasing alongside the third Avatar movie, Fire and Ash. Which, if you might remember, the base game was originally supposed to release around the same time as that second movie, Way of the Water, but missed the mark, failing to capitalize on that release. So this time around, Ubisoft wasn't going to make that same mistake twice, and with the release of From the Ashes, what you get is an 8 to 10 hour story pack in a sectioned off area from that main game, but this time around you play as Sotlek, an NPC from that base game, along with his brand new set of skills and gear for you to upgrade. But one of, if not the biggest additions, actually dropped a few weeks prior, and that is the ability to now play in third person, as it was previously only playable in first. All of this, I think, helps From the Ashes feel like a much smaller scale sequel instead of the expansion add-on that it's being marketed to be. And in many ways, I think this expansion is actually better than the base game in more than a few. However, it does come with that $25 price tag, so I do think that part of your enjoyment with this release also comes down to how much you love the gameplay, this world of Pandora, and the Avatar franchise. As I do with all my reviews, I like to take a little bit of time to talk about the technical performance. So I went ahead and I played From the Ashes on PC, running the game on an RTX 4080 and an i7-13700K with all the settings on high, ray tracing on, and frame generation enabled. And for the most part, I was able to maintain a solid 90 to about 100 FPS average in most sequences. There were, however, massive dips when I would get to those larger enemy bases or just foliage heavy areas, and this is still to this day one of the few games that can really make my PC have to work for it. I'm also reminded by this when flying around on my Ikron that this is one of the best looking titles I've played over the last couple of years, full stop. The world of Pandora is brought to life beautifully with all the different biomes and the wildlife, and being able to explore it again was a ton of fun. And considering it looks this damn good, I'm personally okay with a few frame dips here and there, just so as long they aren't frequent. However, I do always recommend that if you are planning on picking the game up or playing it for yourself, you might want to check out a few videos with comparable specs to yours so they at least have an idea of what you'll be working with. The story of From the Ashes picks up 1 year after the events of that base game, and it is recommended that you do finish that before starting this expansion. Like I mentioned earlier, you play as Solek, an NPC from the Traong clan, and at first I was a little worried about leaving our main character behind, but Solek's story was honestly one that was able to grab me right from that first cutscene and gameplay sequence alone. He's a much older soul on Pandora, he's seen some shit, and after seeing his group torn apart at the hands of the Sky People and the Ash clan, it's his job to go ahead and track them down. On the surface, it's a very simple revenge story, and I'm really not going to act like it's anything more than that. You have that established hate with the humans, then you have the introduction of the Monkwai clan, a different sect of Na'vi that are introduced in the third Avatar movie. Part of that narrative is going to be hunting down all these different raiders. It's fun to have this new-ish type of enemy to fight, but sadly they don't really do much in terms of like actually shaking up the combat. There's no new moveset, there's no new encounters, so it is a little bit of a missed opportunity. Like I said before, you're also going to be tasked with locating and retrieving different members of your clan as that narrative progresses on. You're also going to be interacting with different tribes of Na'vi over that expansion's runtime, and seeing how the Ash people have affected them was also another way to help illustrate their reach and the destruction that they've caused, not just Sotlek, but the entire Na'vi forest. I also do want to note here that unlike that main game, From the Ashes is a completely solo experience. And I was personally a little bummed out by this, as I had originally played that base game with a good friend of mine and was planning on doing the same here. But that solo experience this go around was thankfully still pretty good, and it helps that the cutscenes and the performance capture this time around got a bump as well. I also don't want you to get the impression that this is going to be a direct tie-in with that third movie. You aren't going to see Soli or Neytiri running around, but more so having ties and existing within the world at the same time as that third movie. When a certain character gets mentioned or a certain, line of dialogue is said, you'll catch it if you've seen the movie. Totally not necessary, but still a fun little thing for the people who have. Narratively, it's still going to feel very similar to that base game, but the pace at what it moves is much, much faster and a lot more action focused, which personally did wonders for my enjoyment.
Sonleg, we're coming from our right. Radiate missile guidance beacon.
What?
They're going to strike the cave.
Watch the door. I will take the beacon.
Gameplay wise, From the Ashes is the most fun that I've had with Frontiers of Pandora, and I'm not sure if that's the way that it plays now in the third person, or it's the combat skills that Sotlek now has at his disposal compared to our character from that base game, as he's honestly a bit of a badass. First and foremost, let's go ahead and let's talk about that third person mode. I, for one, love first person games in general. They allow you to get immersed into that world. You can feel as if though you're like literally living in that world yourself, and Frontiers of Pandora was in that upper echelon of my list when it came to that immersion factor. But I think after spending 10 hours with this expansion in the third person, I actually came to prefer that third person mode more. There are, however, still some scenes and sequences in the first person, but for a majority, the whole game, even the base one, can now be played from the third person, and it plays pretty well, I might add. All the animations have been reworked so that they now look proper, given that shift in perspective as well. Gameplay wise, playing as Sotlek, I wasn't expecting there to be that much of a difference to how he played versus our main character, and I was incredibly wrong on that front. Sotlek is this tank of a beast that you will have to build up as you progress throughout that expansion, but as you begin to build him up, you're going to notice that he has his own new skill tree with tons of abilities like enhanced not-be vision, being able to do finishers on armored targets, or his new warrior sense ability, which is essentially Spartan Rage from God of War, with skills allowing you to augment it even further. So building out his skills is obviously a great way to start alongside your gear progression. Gear has also been streamlined this time around from that base game, allowing you to upgrade all the gear and all the weapons that you find at any given time out in the open world, no longer needing to go to the base or camp to do so, allowing you to spend more time in that open world and less time at camp crafting. The part of the expansion that I found to be lacking or the least innovative was the open world activities. It's all stuff that you've seen before. You've got your RDA bases with different variations to them based on whatever area that you're in. But other than that, there really isn't that much that separates that open world design or adds to it from that base release, but the actual act of playing is so much more enjoyable this time around, so I can let it slide, I think. From the Ashes, in a lot of ways, is everything that I would have wanted out of a sequel to that first release. The complaints about the base game's story being too formulaic or boring at times were fair, and I found Sotlek's personal journey this time around to be much more engaging than what we'd experienced in the past. They set the stage quick, and it doesn't really overstay its welcome across that runtime of 8 to 10 hours, which is something I do worry about with the expansions these days. They hype them up to be this big transformative addition to the title, and then it ends up falling flat, and From the Ashes is just overall a fun experience. The open world that you get to explore here is obviously a section that they've reused from that base game, but the way that it's been retooled and changed due to the Ash Clan's presence was a nice visual. I do wish the Ash Clan, however, would have been a little bit more threatening or imposing, but still a nice addition nonetheless. Skills and gear were also a very welcome change this go around, as XP is just earned by taking down enemies and completing missions, with unlocks being plentiful and often throughout that duration, so you do always have that sense of progression when playing. The open world activities are still your formulaic RDA bases, but with Sotlek's new abilities, you do have the ability to go in guns blazing, or do you want to take out everyone stealthily? I don't really know what more I could say about From the Ashes. If you like the base game of Frontiers of Pandora, I think you're really going to enjoy this. If you didn't like that base game, I know the addition of the third person mode has caused more than a few people to jump back in and give it another go. So if you're someone that's, a little more hesitant or on the fence, you can always grab a month of Ubisoft Plus for about $15 or so to check it out and see for yourself. I, for one, am glad that I played through From the Ashes, and having just watched Fire and Ash, it no doubt helped heighten that experience. While I'm not sure if we ever will get that full-blown sequel, this feels just as good as one in my eyes. As we reach the end of the video, if you did enjoy yourself here today, consider dropping the video a like, subscribing, and hitting that notification bell so you can catch all of my upcoming reviews and previews in the future. We're going to close out the year with my top 10 games of 2025 list, so keep your eyes peeled for that one. And once again, thank you to Ubisoft for the review code. And as always, if you did make it this far, I just want to say thank you for taking that time out of your day. And this has been my review for Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora from the Ashes. Thank you for watching.